security guards end up coming out and calling me into the back, and they have my bag open on the security belt. I was arrested. I was ankle shackled and wrist shackled to a chair. It was sort of like a holding space for 3 days with no toilet paper. I fought for my freedom for a year and a half. I lost 15 pounds. I was told I was going home 4 different occasions. It was a lie. It was horrible. And I was facing 12 to 20 years in prison. For 19 years, I never felt safe.
In prison,
Yeah.
What was your biggest breakthrough and your biggest turning point? When did your spirituality, your connection with God deepen?
Oh, I love that. So the very first one, what I would say is...
Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I'm back for another episode. I'm your host, Eric Bigger. And today, we got a phenomenal guest, Miss Alana Moor. She's a 2-time winning speaker, the founder of Hourglass Movement Foundation, and the host of the podcast From Scratch, Building Her Life After Incarceration. Alana, welcome to Spiritual Fitness Podcast. How are you? How are you feeling?
Good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
In this new year of 2026, before we get into your story, what is like your intentions and what is your aspirations for this year?
My aspiration for this year is this is going to sound maybe a little bit corny, but it's a big deal for me. It's really showing up and being myself. Because a lot of time in my life has been spent sort of succumbing to what other people think I should be, lowering who I am and being quiet. And I'm generally a loud person. So it's really about building up who I am and the story that I have to tell, and just saying yes to the opportunities that arise, and doing it with patience. Because it's really, really easy when we create aspirations to ourselves to be connected to the end goal that we have created, not knowing that we live in a world that, whether you believe it or not, is spiritual. And it is guided by, if you believe in God or divine energy, I believe in God. And so for me, God has a plan for me. I have a thing called free will. And so I can create the plan for myself, but maybe it's not supposed to happen like A, B, C, D. So for me, it's putting myself out there, starting to really tell my story, building up myself and my brand, challenging myself and saying yes, but doing it in a way where I go, okay, if it doesn't work out the way that I think it should, it doesn't mean that it's not supposed to happen.
Can we get a little bit into the story of Alana and how she arrived to Costa Rica now? You was incarcerated for some time, and now you're this empowering speaker, who has a foundation, who has a podcast, and you're here to empower women to be their greatest selves, to be themselves, and to not shrink and be small to make other people big. So just give us a little dive into the story of you and how you got to this place.
In my late 20s, decided that I wanted to be a famous fashion designer. I moved to Toronto to go to college for fashion and business, graduated with a 3.7 GPA, loved it, loved the business side of it, loved the sort of fashion side of it. Even though I was living this lifestyle, I was always a bit of a black sheep. In grade 11, in the yearbook, it said, most likely to become a troublemaker.
Wow.
And it was my face. So it came true. I wonder how many people went back and looked at that and they were like, I knew it. So at the time that I was going to school, I was also supporting myself in school. So I was working in nightclubs, I was working in bars, I was living that lifestyle. And that lifestyle in Toronto is like really big. Rappers are coming in and different singers. I've met this girl's family where like, I trust her completely. She calls me one day, but remember, she knows that I'm desperate. Right? I'm not the most beautiful woman, so no NBA player is going to snatch me up. And I'm not with rappers and, I'm with the girls that are with the rappers, but I'm the funny one in the corner that's, having fun. So she calls me one day and she's like, hey, I have this opportunity for you. They asked me to go to Panama and on a vacation, but they wanted me to bring a bag home. Their whole pitch to me was, you are going to now be his stylist. We're going to get all of the girls in his music videos to wear your clothing line, because I had starting a clothing line called Judged. And it was sort of this buildup where I was like, oh, I made it.
Right.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Like that dream that I had to be a famous fashion designer, it just came true. It just felt like all of these blessings were coming in, right? But I didn't listen to the gut feeling and reaction that I had in the moment
Yeah.
that I was asked. And I said yes anyways, because I felt like that was the only way for me to get where I needed to go. 4 days later, when we only had 2 days left on our vacation, brought 2 suitcases. The suitcases looked like they had nothing in them. I knew what I was getting into. I knew that it was either drugs, passports, or money. I don't sit here and claim that I was a victim of anything. At the end of the day, we are all after the age of 18 or 19 or 21, where you're from, we are adults. We have the ability to make our own decisions. On the last day, we go to the airport, we go through security, and then it all goes down. Security guards end up coming out and calling me into the back, and they have my bag open on the security belt. I was arrested. I was ankle shackled and wrist shackled to a chair. It was sort of like a holding space for 3 days with no toilet paper. It was horrible. It was so humiliating. It was so humiliating.
Wow.
I went to court. There was 11 kilos of cocaine in my bag, and I was facing 12 to 20 years in prison.
What was really happening in your body? Like, did you have anybody you could think you could call, like a family or a close friend? Were your beliefs in God strong then? Like, what was happening? Like,
I've always believed in God.
yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that believe in God. I think having a relationship with God is a different story. I think that up until that point in my life, my relationship with God was when it benefited me. When, I'd done too many drugs and I was on the floor and I was like, Lord, please save me. Don't let me die. Or when, I was going through a depression and I was like, God, please just get me out of this. And he would.
Yeah.
My real relationship with the Lord started when I got into prison. At that time, they let me have one phone call. I called my birth mom. So I'm adopted. I met my birth mom at 19.
Yeah.
That is like someone that I felt like, okay, so we have a friendship. We don't have that deep motherly relationship. Her and I are more like best friends. We talk about that all the time. She is my safe person because I can tell her anything. I mean, anything.
Hold on. See, this is where spiritual fitness starts tapping in for me. I could be wrong. Just correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm feeling, we never know what's going to come through. I feel like unconsciously you was trying to run away from the family that wasn't biologically yours to go back to the family that brought you to life, if that makes sense. Like, it's weird how it all played itself and how it all unraveled. But I think on an unconscious level, from like that baby, that little girl that know, like, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but I am. So I'm going to create something to get back to the home of me where I feel safe. No knock to them, to your mom and dad. I'm just really unpacking a story because it's such a phenomenal story. And I think sometimes we question life, we question God, we question a lot of things if we don't have the answer to the logic, but I like to always go beneath the root, right? Because they say soul work is slow work, right? And a lot of people do brain things, right? And so beneath the root, I feel like for you, it was this strong desire or call. I need to be where I come from, right? Or well, my soul knows, right? Your soul knows. So
for 19 years, I never felt safe. So like my parents will tell you, like, they don't understand. They're not supposed to. They are not adopted. They adopted me. They love me unconditionally. My parents are amazing. I love them. This has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
This has everything to do with like the soul part that you're talking about, right? And I always think about that because people that understand this, they're like, you choose your parents. So I'm like, wait, how does it work when you're adopted? Did we as humans like mess that up? Are we sort of like fucking with that flow? Excuse my language, because if I chose my parents, but then it was taken away. So I always felt this sort of like, who am I? I never felt understood. Never. I'm loud. I'm out there. I say things that are unhinged. The day I met Morna, my birth mother and my brother and my sister, it was like this.
Back home, one alignment.
Man, it was like, oh, there I am. Okay. Like I can call this woman and say anything. There's innate parts of my soul in my blood that come from her that I will not understand until I see them. So people out there that have never met their parents, I guarantee you that they all feel, whether they talk about it or not, and typically they don't talk about it because people get defensive and take it personal if they talk about feeling an emptiness. They feel it.
Yeah.
They feel it.
You served how many years in prison?
4.5.
4.5. Okay, and then when you came home, you got deported right back to Toronto?
No, so I did 4.5 years. I got out. It's a very interesting story. The woman that basically built the brand Burt's Bees from the ground up heard about my story, lives in this beautiful place in Panama called El Valle, was meditating one day, felt like she needed to have me come into her home. So she brought me into her home for 2 years.
How did you meet her, by the way?
So it's such a long story, but my parents would come every 6 months and visit me.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, actually what happened is my daughter's in jail here. And so you watch these people be like, well, and so all these people came together and started to want to figure out how to help. Well, Kim, the older gentleman that was like working at this hotel, approached my mom and he goes, listen, in 97, I did time in prison. I did 5 years. And I've always wanted to help someone in prison. So he was like, I want to help. So he basically became my uncle. So he started to come down and see me. My parents would send him money. He'd bring me money. He'd buy me groceries, bring me groceries. He was doing anything and everything, telling everyone about my story, figuring out ways that he could talk to. He had a psychologist that was a psychologist at Harvard come down and talk to me and help me. Oh, this man was amazing. He talked to my lawyers because he spoke Spanish. I didn't at the time. I now speak Spanish fluently. But he was basically representing me to my lawyer to make sure that we were talking, like everything. He was there. So the father of my child I met when I was in prison. He was also in prison. We ended up being together. He ended up hooking up with Uncle Kim and moving up to El Valle. And they were the ones that were talking to people about my story, trying to find someone to take responsibility for me. They talked to this woman, Sunny Justice, who at first was like, no way. I'm not having some con come and live in my house. Then one day she was meditating, and she was like, God told me you are going to bring that girl into your house and you are going to teach her everything you know about business. And she did. So this is crazy. The really important word here is obedience. Now, the first time I heard obedience, I was like, pow, don't say that word to me. I don't like it. However, now that I've sat with it more, the reason that I say obedience is because Sunny could have been sitting there praying and feeling that and said no. While God was leading her to do something to save me, to help me. When you feel that feeling of like helping someone, talking to someone, even in the street, do you ever get that feeling? I do. Yesterday, I was buying food for my son and I heard the homeless guy that we know down the street, he needs a meal. I was like, okay, all right. I bought him a meal. We went, found him. We gave him food.
Yeah.
Like those guidance, it means something. So I fought for my freedom for 1.5 years. I lost 15 pounds. I was told I was going home 4 different occasions. It was a lie. It was horrible. I'm on my knees every night. I'm praying. I remember the night I prayed and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I remember the next day I go out to make a phone call. I see Kim. I see my lawyer. And I see this tall, short, bald-haired woman in like black and white, just like elegant. And I'm like, what is that? The guards call me, Alana, come inside. I go inside, I sit down, I meet Sunny Justice. She tells me the story. She sits down and she tells me her story. Like she worked for Vogue. And she's like, I just needed to basically come down and make sure you weren't crazy. And she's like, I see that you're not crazy. And she said yes. And she did everything she needed to do. Basically, everyone outside figured it out. And I went to court. I was allowed to go and live with her. And she I learned how to build websites. I learned about social media because I didn't really like do social media that much. I was, promoting her business, doing the marketing. I built the website for it. And then I learned how to run a luxury Airbnb, 8-room luxury Airbnb. So I did that. She taught me everything. That was such an amazing experience for me.
In prison, what was your biggest breakthrough and your biggest turning point? And then second, when did your spirituality, your connection with God deepen?
So it was about a year and a half or 2 years in. There was a guard. Her name was, she hated me. Like when I say this woman did not like me, a lot of guards didn't like me, but this woman wanted to make my life a living hell. She would not let me go out and do fitness. She just was always doing anything in her power to make my experience bad. Everyone in prison had a cell phone. Okay. I did not have a cell phone until almost 2 years in, but I did have a phone for a 6-month periods. I had a cell phone. Now, you're not allowed, but we would get them in and we would buy them. Now, the women would hide them inside of themselves.
Yeah.
I would not. I refused. There was no way it was happening. So I had these like extravagant, ridiculous hiding places where I was like doing acrobatics to get 14 feet up into the ceiling to hide my phone. So she caught word that I had a phone. One night, she sent in 6 guards to raid the cell, but not raid anybody else, just me, grab me, hold my arms up, find my phone and take it. Okay. I'm pissed. This is the only communication that I have with my family. The payphone that we have outside hasn't worked for months. And I'm just like, I'm not hurting anybody. Just leave me alone. That was not how I felt. I felt like I wanted to hurt her. I was so mad. So the next day she was like, she came in, she's laughing at me. And I'm in the back, I'm exercising. And she says something to me and I snap. I'm really strong at this time because I work out 2 hours a day. And my ego was big and I still was just like uncomfortable with the situation. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat the gut of her. I'm done. I wanted to kill her. That's how I felt. Like I saw red. I don't even know how to explain it. I was just like, It felt like everything inside of me exploded. And it was sort of like I had this out of body experience. This is interesting. I had this out of body experience at that moment where it was like, I was either about to do this or do this.
Yeah.
Right. I always say this to people in prison. I had a choice to be constructive or destructive with my time. But at that moment, I wanted to be destructive. And it was like, that could have been the thing that switched me where you see people that go into prison and they switch and they become like way worse than they were. So I went after her, this big girl named, but it was 400 pounds, grabbed another girl's arms and they crossed it over. And I was like trying to get through. I don't even really remember. I just know that after they would laugh at me and tell me like, we've never seen you like you went crazy. I didn't get my hands on her. I got 6 months probation. I remember this girl named, they had been in prison for years. She was like 40. I think she got locked up at 19. She pulled me outside. She's like, you cannot do this. This cannot be your life. You have to change. At that moment, I grabbed the Bible. I went to the bathroom. I sat on the toilet because that's the only place you can get true privacy.
Yeah.
Right? Closed the door and I was just like sobbing, reading the Bible, crying. I was like, God, please, like, help me. And what I heard God tell me, or what I felt in that moment, was it's time to start saying yes. It's time to start doing things that are going to make you grow in a place that wants to see you fail. And so I started to say yes. What does that mean in prison? Any event, any class, any course that came, I started to say yes. There was this public speaking competition. This was that big moment for me. I knew I always wanted to be on stage. And I had started to feel like, I feel like God wants me to tell my story. I remember I walked out, I saw on the wall this thing in Spanish that said there's this oratoria, the public speaking competition. But there, it's a big deal. You do it in prison. If you win, you go to Panama City with no handcuffs in this beautiful theater. And it's televised. And they do this big national public speaking competition. So guess what? I said yes. Wow. I wrote my first speech in Spanish. I had to start out with a quote. I used 2 quotes, one by Nelson Mandela, everything feels impossible until it's done.
I love that.
Yeah. And one by Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So with those two quotes, I built a speech. I wrote a speech, my first speech ever. And then I translated it with the help of people into Spanish, practiced it, did it at the prison. But it was like they had 80 university students come. They had people. It was like 150 people. I won.
Hey.
I went to Panama City. My dad flew down. I was with no handcuffs. I had an entourage of police officers, and I got on stage. I didn't win, but I won.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I got on that stage, it gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to cry. As soon as I got on that stage, I was like, this is it.
This is it. Wow. Look at
this is who I am.
Amen. Look at that. That's a prayer. Your story is a prayer. You know what I mean? What would be the advice to anybody going through a hard time right now and that's trying to look for the light at the end of the tunnel, or is trying to come out of darkness? And two is, what is spiritual fitness to you?
Oh, I love that. So the very first one, what I would say is it's really important to have grace with yourself. It's really important to give yourself grace and to understand something fundamental in life. Life will always be challenging in one way or another. It doesn't mean you can't have good times. It doesn't mean, no. Challenges are here to help us grow. So it's not about finding light at the end of the tunnel. It's that the light is already here. And what you have is this incredible innate ability to choose to feel joy, even when you feel like your life is falling apart, and to understand that there is so much power in prayer and in taking action on that prayer. So my nonna used to say this: pray like it's all up to him. Work like it's all up to you. That's when, you lose your job, you want to get out a divorce, you do all those things. Just know that you can still feel joy. But if it's like you've lost a loved one, someone has taken their life, you feel this deep depression. This might be really hard for people to hear. The solution is not quick. The best thing that you can do for yourself is have grace, allow yourself to walk through it, ask for help when you need it. Ask for a hug when you need it, and don't think that you are a singular situation in this world where you can't ask for help, or you feel like, oh, I went through this, I have to man up and get through it and not ask for help. Have grace, ask for help, start to say yes, and start talking to God. And so when God tells you, trust in me with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So it's like you can still go through pain and go, God, I don't understand why this is happening to me, but know that in the trajectory of the life that was created for you, this challenge is supposed to be here. It's not happening because you're bad. It's not happening because you did something wrong. You got to have grace. And the last I will say, which is really hard, is the more you can take responsibility for the feelings that you have, and the less that you do this, pointing at outside things, the more you're going to be able to accept that things are going to happen to you, and that, okay, I take responsibility for the fact that, I'm getting a divorce, and that happened. And I take responsibility for the fact that maybe I should have done this differently or that differently. It doesn't make you bad. This is all a growth process. And so being on this earth is all, in Spanish, we say aprendizaje. It's all about learning, right? So the light is already there. It's within you. And that light is, for me, my relationship with God, right? God is always there. You can always, always trust in the word of God and in praying to God. And I promise you, because I know from experience, even when you're in the depths of hell and you start to pray and you start to get clear on what you want or what you need, and you start to also focus and be like, oh, wow, this little miracle happened. Oh, wow, this little miracle happened. Oh, and you start to really see those things that happen. And the other thing is when you start to say yes when people want to bless you, because it's so easy. That also changes the trajectory of what's supposed to happen next. You're not opening yourself up. You're closing yourself to the blessings. Yeah. That's my responsibility. Right. So start saying yes to the blessings, whatever it is. When I hear spiritual fitness, I hear it's a lifestyle.
Mm.
Because when we talk about fitness,
Yeah.
when do you see the most people in the gym? And so when you say spiritual fitness, I think spirituality, relationship with God is a lifetime. It is a lifestyle. It is something that you build over time with consistency. You shall see fruit. It's not just that, oh, I prayed twice, I didn't see any results. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So I think for you, like when you say that, I'm like, what a beautiful word, right? Spirituality is consistent. It is a part of your life. The way that flossing your teeth, making your bed, and scrolling on Instagram is a part of your life.
Wow, Alana, this is incredible way to show up for yourself and the people that's going to listen, watch. How can we get into your energy? Where can we find you? We want to listen to the podcast. Do you got any books coming out, any speeches? Like, how do you get in your world?
On Instagram is probably one of the best ways to find me. Alana Moor Speaks. That's where you can find me, more without an E, www.alanamoor.com. And then right now, the podcast just came out. We were talking about this in the beginning. The podcast just came out, but this has been an idea that's been in the works for years. Yeah. So you can find it on YouTube. You can look up From Scratch by Alana Moor on YouTube. Listen, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and let me know what you think, honestly, because this, like I said, I'm building the muscle, right, to what I want to put out into the world. So yeah. And in terms of speaking, I actually yesterday, I got asked to be on the largest speaker bureau in Canada. And so yesterday it was interesting. That's why when you were like, oh, I could see you speaking, it's like speaking is my passion. And getting on stage and helping people understand how I built frameworks to rebuild my life from scratch in what I believe to be one of the 5 worst situations you can ever be in life, means that it can happen for anybody going through anything.
Well said. Thank you, people. You hear her, you heard her, you feel her, you see her, follow her on Instagram, go to her website, tap into the podcast on YouTube, subscribe. And this was another Spiritual Fitness Podcast episode with Alana Moor. Thank you again. And all the stuff will be in the show notes, people. But go back and listen to this several times. I guarantee you'll get something to change your life. With that being said, we're out. Peace and love.
Thank you.